Shocking new revelations have surfaced about a celebrity powerhouse accused of abusing over 120 people, including minors. The explosive details about these wild, secretive parties will leave you speechless. From mysterious guests to mind-blowing allegations, this is the story Hollywood doesn't want you to hear. Stay tuned as we uncover the truth behind the shocking accusations against one of the biggest names in the industry.
Recently, a shocking and disturbing story has emerged, one that is shaking the entertainment world and beyond. The name Sean Combs, a figure who has been shrouded in controversy for years, is once again making headlines. But this time, the accusations against him are far more serious than anything we've seen before. Combs has been accused of abusing at least 120 people, and the allegations are truly disturbing, as they include claims that 25 of these victims were minors. Even more chilling is the revelation that out of the 120 victims, 60 of them are said to be men. This adds a layer of complexity to the case, especially considering the power and influence Combs holds in the entertainment industry. This news has been spreading rapidly through major media outlets, including Fox News and CNN, as the details continue to unfold. What began as a whisper about a few victims has quickly snowballed into something much darker and more far-reaching than anyone could have predicted. As the case continues to develop, many are left to wonder how much more there is to this story, and how many people, especially in the upper echelons of Hollywood, were complicit in these alleged crimes. The allegations against Combs are being compared to the infamous case of Jeffrey Epstein, a man who seemed to live in the shadows of the powerful and wealthy elite while secretly operating a network of abuse and trafficking that spanned continents. Epstein's arrest and subsequent death left many questions unanswered, but his case exposed the deep and troubling connections between influential figures and a culture of secrecy and abuse. With Combs now at the center of a similar set of accusations, people are beginning to wonder if this case will follow the same trajectory, one where the rich and powerful are protected, while the victims are left unheard. There's also growing suspicion that many of the victims may have been silenced, either through intimidation or financial settlements, a tactic that is all too common in cases involving people with significant wealth and influence. The secrecy surrounding Combs' events has only fueled these concerns, and as more details come to light, it's becoming increasingly clear that there are many layers to this story that have yet to be revealed. What is truly disturbing, however, is not just the accusations themselves, but the very nature of the events at the center of this controversy. According to testimonies from individuals who were present at some of Combs' infamous parties, these gatherings were far from your typical celebrity events. They were not the glamorous soirees that one might expect from a wealthy mogul. Instead, they were secretive, exclusive, and followed a set of disturbing rules that only those personally selected by Combs could understand. It wasn't enough to simply be famous or wealthy to gain access to these parties. Guests had to be specially chosen. This selectivity created an atmosphere of power and control, where only those who were deemed worthy by Combs or his inner circle were allowed to participate in the most intimate, private, and disturbing parts of the event. This exclusivity made the parties feel like an invitation into a world that was shrouded in secrecy. A world where the rules were different, where moral boundaries were blurred, and where certain behaviors seemed to be not only allowed but expected. One of the most disturbing first-hand accounts comes from a woman named Tanya, a model who was invited to one of these notorious gatherings. Tanya has spoken out about the strange and unsettling nature of the parties she attended, revealing some truly shocking details. According to her, the security at the entrance to the party was incredibly strict. Guests were required to surrender their phones and any other devices that could potentially capture photos or videos. The phones were sealed in protective bubble cases to ensure that no one could document what was happening inside. This rule, while common at some high-profile events, takes on a much darker significance when you consider the nature of the activities that were allegedly taking place behind closed doors. Tanya also recalled that once inside, the atmosphere felt surreal. It wasn't the kind of party where people mingled and socialized in a relaxed, carefree manner. Instead, the event was loud, chaotic, and erratic. The music played so loudly that it was impossible to hear anything over the blaring beats, and as the night went on, the mood shifted from casual celebration to something far more dangerous and unsettling. People were seen walking around naked, diving into the pool for skinny dipping sessions, and indulging in copious amounts of alcohol, including mimosas that were passed around by waitresses moving through the crowd. For Tanya, the whole experience felt like being caught in the middle of a twisted dream, where everything felt out of control and where no one seemed to be taking responsibility for their actions. But perhaps the most disturbing part of Tanya's story was her encounter with Combs himself. According to Tanya, at one point during the party, Combs approached her and struck up a conversation. He casually asked her about her plans to visit Cuba, a conversation that Tanya found to be strangely disconnected and uncomfortable. As the party grew more intense and the atmosphere became increasingly explicit, Tanya began to feel more and more uncomfortable. It was as if the party had transformed from a social gathering into a free-for-all, with no regard for boundaries or morality. As she wandered through the chaos, Tanya said that it felt less like a celebration and more like a situation where people were indulging in their darkest impulses without fear of consequence. The sense of powerlessness was overwhelming. There were no rules, no limits, and no one seemed to care about the damage that was being done to those caught in the middle of it all. Tanya's discomfort was palpable, and it's clear that her experience was far from unique. What stood out to Tanya, and what has become one of the most talked about elements of this story, is the presence of a group of small people at the party. Tanya described them as being dressed in Harajuku-style outfits, complete with bright red lipstick. These individuals seemed out of place, especially considering the fact that most of the other attendees were adults. Tanya couldn't help but feel that something was off about their presence at the event. She later wondered if these individuals were part of some kind of fetishistic performance or production. But what struck her the most was how odd and unsettling their appearance was in the context of the party. The whole situation felt wrong, and Tanya's suspicion that something deeply disturbing was happening at these parties only grew as the night wore on. Why were these small people there? What role were they playing? What was the true nature of the event she had found herself in? These are questions that remain unanswered, but the sheer strangeness of the experience left Tanya with a lasting sense of discomfort and distrust. In addition to the unsettling atmosphere and the strange people in attendance, another alarming aspect of Tanya's story is the allegation that some of the guests, particularly younger individuals, were being drugged by Combs and his associates. According to reports, these guests were allegedly drugged to the point of unconsciousness, and once they were incapacitated, Combs would reportedly apply baby oil to them in a manner that can only be described as predatory. This revelation has sparked outrage and horror, as it paints a picture of abuse and exploitation that is hard to ignore. What makes this particularly troubling is the idea that these events, which were clearly designed to be exclusive and secretive, may have been hiding much darker activities beneath the surface. If these allegations are true, it suggests that Combs and those around him were taking extreme measures to ensure that their actions would never be discovered. The use of drugs and the manipulation of vulnerable individuals point to a calculated and deeply disturbing pattern of behavior, one that is difficult to comprehend. As more people come forward with their own stories and experiences, it's becoming clearer that Combs parties were not just isolated incidents but part of a much larger and more systematic problem. These revelations have come to light just as Combs is facing serious criminal charges that could change the course of his life forever. The charges against him include sex trafficking and racketeering, and federal investigators have suggested that his business empire, which includes Bad Boy Entertainment, played a significant role in facilitating these illegal activities. These charges have sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry, with many questioning how Combs was able to operate so freely for so long. The connection between his music empire and these parties raises troubling questions about how much the industry knew about what was going on and whether they actively turned a blind eye to it. Combs' trial, which is scheduled to take place in May 2024, will be a pivotal moment in this case. It will determine whether Combs will face justice for his alleged actions or whether he will be able to escape accountability once again. Combs has denied all the accusations, maintaining his innocence, but as more victims step forward and more evidence surfaces, the case against him is growing stronger. The stakes are incredibly high, and Combs is facing the very real possibility of spending years, if not decades, behind bars. One of the most disturbing developments in this case is the fact that more and more victims are coming forward with their own stories. The recent lawsuits filed against Combs have revealed that the abuse spanned decades, with some of the victims being as young as 13 years old. One of the most disturbing cases involves a woman who claims that she was assaulted by Combs and another unnamed male celebrity at an MTV Video Music Awards afterparty in 2000. She was allegedly drugged and assaulted, and the details of her account paint a picture of a horrific and traumatizing experience. This claim is just one of many that have been filed against Combs in recent weeks, and as more people speak out, it's clear that the full extent of his alleged actions is far worse than anyone could have imagined.